5:45. And the condemned mile wakes up slow. Not because it rested, because sleep and surrender sound the same here. The street light on Outta still flickers like a pulse monitor, measuring whether this block is alive or just hasn't been pronounced. Leon sits on the stoop of building 12, coffee, no sugar. 43 years breathing this concrete and he still hasn't left. Not loyalty, not love, just gravity. The mob pulls you down the way your foundation pulls a house into the dirt. This mile, don't forget. This mile, don't forget. Every crack in the pavement holds a name. Every name holds a debt that outlived the body. The city posted signs last April, condemned, do not occupy. Yellow tape across the entrance like a finish line. Nobody wanted to cross. Mrs. Watkins on the 4th floor tore the sign down. Said they can condemn the building, they can't condemn the woman inside it. Leon watched her do it, didn't help, didn't stop her. Just sipped his coffee and nodded the way you nod at a funeral. When somebody says something true that nobody wants to hear. This mile makes philosophers out of people who never finished school. This mile, don't forget. This mile, don't forget. Every wall remembers who leaned against it. Every window remembers who stopped looking out. The sun crawls over the roof line like it's not sure it wants to be here. Leon can see 3 generations from this stoop. The ones who built the mile, the ones who inherited it, and the ones who be standing in the rubble when the city finally follows through. Deshaun jogs past, 19 headphones, somewhere to be. Leon doesn't call out, just watches the direction. Westbound means work, eastbound means the other thing. Deshaun goes east, and Leon finishes his coffee like a man closing the book. This mile, don't forget. Every crack in the pavement holds a name and the sun rises anyway. Not for us, just because it doesn't know how to stop. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, 9 a.m. and a man in a hard hat nails something to the front door. The sound echoes through the hallway like a judge dropping a gavel. The paper says final notice, vacate within 30 days. 30 days to dismantle a life that took 30 years to build. Mrs. Watkins reads it through her bifocals, holds the paper like a diagnosis, folds it, puts it in the Bible between Psalms 23 and 24. The Lord is my shepherd, but the city is the wolf. And the wolf has a timeline, and the demolition crew on standby. Notice nailed to the door, they gave us 30 days. Notice nailed to the door, like a coffin being sealed. 30 days to pack a lifetime. 30 days before the wrecking ball speaks the only language the city knows. The hallway fills with whispers, apartment by apartment, floor by floor. Everybody reading the same sentence, nobody reading it the same way. The young ones see an excuse to leave, the old ones see a death sentence written in bureaucratic font. Leon tears his copy down and rolls a cigarette with it. Smokes the condemnation notice like it's therapy. Exhales the city's decision through his nostrils. They've been trying to demolish us since before the building existed. Notice nailed to the door, they gave us 30 days. Notice nailed to the door, like a coffin being sealed. They didn't knock, they didn't ask, they just nailed their intention to our entrance and walked back to their sedan. Deshaun's mother Tanya, she calls the legal aid office, holds for 40 minutes, gets disconnected twice. The third time a voice says, we're aware of the situation, which is the legal way of saying we're watching you drown from a safe distance. Reese sees the notice and laughs, actually laughs. They're condemning the building's been condemned since 89. They just making it official now, the way a doctor pronounces time of death on a body that's been cold for hours. Notice nailed to the door, they gave us 30 days. Notice nailed to the door, like a coffin being sealed. 30 days to prove that people live here. 30 days before we become the rubble we've been standing on. Don't now. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. building is dying the way buildings die. From the inside, quietly, until the quiet becomes a collapse that sounds like applause. Reese is in the stairwell when the first crack echoes. He's counting money, always counting money. When the building starts counting down, structural failure doesn't announce itself with a siren. It announces itself with a sound like God clearing his throat. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's where we live. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's what they gave us. Condemned walls holding condemned people, and the collapse don't care which one falls first. The dust settles on Reese's stack, $100 bills coated in plaster. He brushes them off the way you brush off a warning. The building just told him something in its own language, and he chose not to translate. Leon hears the crack from across the street, knows that sound. Heard it in 97 when Building 9 came down. Took out Mrs. Johnson and her aquarium full of fish. The rescue team saved nobody, but found 300 goldfish in the rubble. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's where we live. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's what they gave us. The ceiling is the lid, and every apartment is a coffin with a window. Deshaun runs up the stairs, Tanya's on the 5th floor. Her ceiling's holding, but the walls are sweating. Concrete sweats before it breaks, the way people sweat before they confess. And this building has a lot to confess. He finds her in the kitchen, standing under a crack that wasn't there this morning. We need to go, Ma. But she's looking at the crack like it's a map, tracing the line from kitchen to hallway to the front door, as if the building is showing her the exit it's been hiding for years. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's where we live. Where the ceiling meets the casket, that's what they gave us. They condemned the building, but the building condemned us first. It's been burying it slowly since the day we moved in. Mrs. Watkins on the 4th floor, she feels the vibration through the floorboards. Her label boxes shift, the husband's toolbox slides across the linoleum. She doesn't move, sits in a chair like a captain going down with the ship. The building groans around her like a body accepting its diagnosis. 10 p.m. and the structural engineer won't arrive until morning, because emergencies in condemned buildings are filed under expected. The mile holds its breath. Ceiling dust still floating like snow in a neighborhood that never gets a white Christmas.
$11 p.m. and the eviction arrives. Not from the city, from the competition. 3 settings on Alder Street. Engines running like a jury deliberating. Reese territory just became contested real estate. And contested real estate resolves itself with velocity and metal. The first shot sounds like a staple gun, and Menace missed the team, efficient. The second sounds like a period. A period at the end of a sentence. The third sounds like a question mark. Who's next? The mild answers with silence, which is the neighborhood's version of testimony. Eviction by caliber, no courtroom, no gavel. Eviction by caliber, the verdict travels at 1,200 feet per second. They don't serve papers. They don't serve papers. They serve consequences. Reese returns fire from the doorway of Building 12. Lee and Stoop, we drank coffee this morning. Now it's a defensive position and the coffee cup is still there, sitting on the railing under stillboard, while the world around it comes apart. Leon is inside, on the floor, lights off, muscle memory from decades of this. He got the list, he costs the way he counts the months left on lease. He counts the shots the way he months left on a lease. 12, 13, 14, a pause, 15. The pause is always worse than the shots. Eviction by caliber, no courtroom, no gavel. Eviction by caliber, the verdict travels at 1,200 feet per second. They came to take the corner. The sound live in his body longer than any lullaby. We'll surf this take the corner. And the corner fought back some movie language it was ever taught. Deshaun presses Tanya to the floor of apartment 5C. Baby Marcus is crying in the magazine, a stairway and a future. And a future. When it stops, the silence that follows is not peace. It's inventory, Malos is not peace. The silence that follows is not peace. It's inventory, the block counting what's still breathing. Reese is on the sidewalk, not standing. The chalk outline won't come until morning. They took something else instead. They took something else instead. Something that won't grow back. 2 a.m. and the only sound is the radiator in Mrs. Watkins' apartment still humming. The building's heartbeat, even as everything around the bullet holes in the plaster.
The assessor came through here once. Clipboard, clean shoes, clean conscience. Measured the square footage of desperation and called it below market value. Wrote 0 in the column where the word was supposed to go. Didn't measure the laughter, didn't measure the Sunday dinners, didn't measure the prayers. Property value 0, that's what the county says. 0, like the number of ambulances that arrive on time. 0, like the number of street lights they replaced this year. 0, like the number of times the city said our name without a warrant attached. This block is worth nothing on paper. This block is worth everything in blood. The property value is 0, but the cost of living here is higher than anywhere in the city. Tanya leaves for work at 6, first shift at the hospital laundry. Fold sheets for patients who never know her name. Comes home at 3, leaves again at 4. Second shift, different building. Her hands smell like bleach and exhaustion, which are the same chemical here. Reese posts up on the corner of Outta and 5th, Leon's protege, or he was, before the curriculum changed. Now he teaches a different syllabus, economics of the immediate, supply, demand, and the acceptance that tomorrow is not guaranteed. This block is worth nothing on paper. This block is worth everything in blood. The property value is 0, but try telling that to the woman who raised 3 children in apartment 6A. The assessor report sits in the filing cabinet downtown, next to the demolition timeline and the rezoning proposal. They're gonna build condos here, the brochure says urban renewal, which is a polite way of saying we're gonna erase you and charge someone else rent for the space. Leon reads the newspaper at the bodega. Front page talks about revitalization. He folds it twice and uses it to level the wobbly table. That's all the news is good for around here, he says, making sure the furniture don't lean. This block is worth nothing on paper. This block is worth everything in blood. The property value is 0, but zeros add up when you stack enough of them. And we've been stacking for decades. 6:30 a.m. and the mile is fully awake now. Every condemned window has a light on behind it. Every light is a refusal, and every refusal is worth more than anything the assessor wrote down.
And the demolition company sends a surveyor. He measures walls like a butcher measures a carcass. Calculates the tonnage of concrete, the volume of rebar. Doesn't count your memories or the volume of grief. For his name is Kevin. Good guy probably has a daughter, probably does his job the way a surgeon removes a tumor. Clinical, precise, no emotional attachment to the organ. He doesn't know that organ is somebody's entire body. Leon watches from across the street, arms crossed. Counts the measurements. Kevin takes 14 measurements to determine how quickly they can unmake what took the community 40 years to build. Demolition, river knitted. They subtract the people first. Demolition, I'm river knitted. Then they subtract the walls, the map for lacing out walls. Divide the land by profit margin. Multiply the silence by the number of families displaced. Tanya calculates differently. She counts the cost of moving First month, last month, security deposit, 1,800 minimum. That's 6 weeks of hospital laundry shifts, no days off. Her math has no margin of error because she has an error because she has no margin at all. Deshaun does his own arithmetic in the stairwell. Counts the rolls Reese handed him 200 each. Calculates how many he needs to cover Tanya's deposit. The answer is 9, which is also the caliber he carries for safety. Demolition, ribbon knitted. They subtract the people first. Demolition, I'm ribbon knitted. Then they subtract the walls. The math for lacing out walls always works when you remove the human variable. And that's exactly what they do. They remove the variable. Demolition, ribbon knitted. They subtract the people first. Keevan's math uses concrete and square footage. Our math uses blood pressure, and the number of nights can't foot it. Kiev uses blood pressure, and the number of nights we can't sleep. Reese leans against the hydrant, doing mental calculation. How much product moves through this corridor per week versus how much it costs to relocate operations. The demolition doesn't destroy his business, it just increases his overhead. 3 o'clock, Kevin finished packs his measuring tape, drives away in a truck that says Precision Demolition Services. Leon reads is always 0, same number the assessor wrote down.
Mrs. Watkins, Mrs. Watkins, Mrs. Watkins, yeah. Mrs. Watkins starts packing at 4 p.m. Not because she's leaving, but because inventory is how she fights. She labels every box with what's inside and what it means. Kitchen, where I taught 3 daughters to season without a recipe. The last tenant's inventory. Every object tells a story. The last tenant's inventory. Every box weighs more than cardboard. She packs the curtains, her husband hung in 82. The curtain rod still has his fingerprints, she checked. Photo album, 1967 to present. Every page a layer of sediment from a life lived in one location. Her daughter's first steps happened in this hallway. The scuff marks are still there. The building kept the evidence. The last tenant's inventory. Every object tells a story. The last tenant's inventory. Every box weighs more than cardboard. You can condemn the walls, but you can't condemn what happened between them. The couch bought secondhand in 91 from a man named Clarence, who was moving to Atlanta because Atlanta was the promised land back then. The couch survived 3 grandchildren, 2 floods, and 1 robbery. It's the most resilient thing in the apartment, including Mrs. Watkins. She finds her husband's toolbox under the sink, unopened since he passed. The wrench still set to the size of the kitchen faucet, as if he knew he'd need to fix one more thing, and left the tool ready for a hand that never came back. The last tenant's inventory. Every object tells a story. The last tenant's inventory. Every box weighs more than cardboard. She wraps the dishes in newspaper, headlines from the last 3 decades. Every plate cushioned by someone else's tragedy. Leon knocks at 6, stands in the doorway, hat in hand.
You need help carrying anything, Mrs. Watkins?
She looks at him the way a building looks at its own blueprint, recognizing the original design beneath the damage.
I'm not carrying it out,
Leon, I'm cataloging it. So when they bulldoze this apartment and build a condominium, somebody somewhere will know that this was not an empty building. This was a full life, and it deserved more than the yellow notice on the door. Last tenant's inventory. Every object tells a story. The last tenant's inventory. Every box weighs more than cardboard. She packs the clock that stopped in 2019, and the silence it left behind, which was louder than the ticking ever was. This is Watkins.
3 a.m. Someone lit a fire in the basement of building 9. Not arson, not accident, just the building finally excelling. Something hot that's been sitting in its foundation for 40 years. The smoke rises through the floors like a confession working its way out. The fire department arrives in 11 minutes. a new record for the mile. Usually they take 20, which is the city's way of saying we'll save what's worth saving. And the response time tells you exactly how much they think you're worth. 11 minutes worth. Smoke from the foundation rising through the floors. Smoke from the foundation rising through the floors. Smoke from the foundation. Every room fills with the truth. Fake is burning from the bottom up. The way everything in the smile burns from the foundation, they never bother to fix. They never bother to fix. They never bother to fix. Leon stands outside in his undershirt, watching the smoke. He built shelves in that building, fixed toilets, replaced locks, put more labor into those walls than any contractor the city ever hired. And now it's burning, and he's watching his work turn into weather. Mrs. Watkins comes out last, not because she's slow, because she went back for the toolbox. Her husband's wrench still set to size. The firefighter carries her down the last flight. She holds the toolbox like a newborn. She holds the toolbox like a newborn. Most important thing in the smoke from the foundation rising through the floors. Smoke from the foundation rising through the floors. Smoke from the foundation. Every room fills with the truth. They condemned us in the bottom up. The way everything in the smile burns from the foundation. And he's not crying anymore. He's watching, absorbing, filing this under's first permanent mirroring. Filing this under's first permanent mirroring. The smoke is 40 years of living into the nights. Got dinner smells, arguments, lullabies, the sound of locks turning. All of it rising, dispersing, becoming atmosphere, becoming weather that the city will never check the forecast for. 4 a.m. the fire's out, but the smoke remains hanging over the mile like a question nobody asked. The building is a skeleton now, rebar and ash, looking exactly like what the city always said it was condemned. Looking exactly like what the city always said it was condemned. Smoke from the foundation rising through the schedule. This was somebody's wall, he says to nobody. And now it's somebody's proof that we were here.
What the Wreckage cap? 5 a.m. Same time as yesterday, but the mile looks different now. Building 9 is a skeleton. Building 12 has bullet scars. The sun comes up the same way, indifferent, reliable. The only thing in this neighborhood that shows up on schedule. The records kept things the demolition was supposed to destroy. A child's drawing on the 3rd floor wall. Crayon son, crayon family. The fire burned the wallpaper, but left the crayon intact, as if the heat respected the innocence more than the city ever did. What the records kept, look through the rubble. What the records kept underneath the ash. Not everything burns at the same temperature, and the things that survive the fire are the things that mattered most. Leon walks through the remains of building 9 at dawn, stepping over charred beams like a man reading a book he wrote. Here's where the fuse box was, he replaced it twice. Here's where Mrs. Johnson's goldfish lived before the last collapse. He finds a doorknob, brass, still attached to nothing. Picks it up, turns it in his hand like a question. All those years we locked our doors against each other, when the real threat was coming from the people who owned the doors. What the Wreckage cap? Look through the rubble. What the Wreckage cap underneath the ash. The building is gone, but the evidence remains. Every nail, every hinge, proof that somebody built this with their hands. Deshaun sits on the curb with baby Marcus sleeping in the car seat. Tanya's inside the sedan, eyes closed, not sleeping, just closed. The way you close a book you're not done with, but need a moment before turning the next page. Reese is at the hospital, intensive care, 4th floor. Leon hasn't visited yet, says he will, knows he won't. It's not anger, it's arithmetic. He calculated the trajectory years ago, and the answer always ended at a hospital bed or a hill. What the Wreckage kept? Look through the rubble. What the Wreckage kept underneath the ash? It kept the toolbox, it kept the crayon drawing, it kept the doorknob that still turns toward nothing. Mrs. Watkins sits on the folding chair on the sidewalk, surrounded by your label boxes, everything she owns cataloged. She looks at the skeleton of building 9 and says they didn't demolish it, it just finally said what it's been thinking. The Wreckage kept more than the building ever held, because buildings hold walls and walls hold weight, but Wreckage holds truth, unfiltered, uninsulated. And the truth is, we were here and we built this, and it wasn't nothing. The second sunrise on the condemned mile, the light hits the rubble and turns to gold for exactly 4 minutes. And in those 4 minutes, the wreckage looks like a monument, a memorial that the city will never build, but the sun builds every morning. Leon is back on his stoop, different stoop now, building 14. Coffee, no sugar, same gravity, same refusal to leave. He looks at the mile the way a father looks at a scar on his child, not with anger, not with sadness, with the specific tenderness of knowing the story behind it.
This smile, don't forget. This smile, don't forget.
Every crack in the pavement holds a name. Every name holds a life that was worth more than the number they assigned it. Mrs. Watkins, still on the sidewalk, still with her boxes. A woman from the housing authority comes at 7, clipboard ready.
We can relocate you to a temporary shelter, ma'am.
Mrs. Watkins looks at her and says, I am the shelter. The building was just the walls. Deshaun buckles baby Marcus into the car seat, heading west this time, not east-west, where Tanya's sister has a spare room. Leon watches the direction and nods the way he nods when something true happens that doesn't need applause.
This smile, don't forget. This smile, don't forget.
Every window that's broken remembers the light it held. Every door that's burned remembers the hand that built it. The mile remembers Leon fixing fuse boxes at midnight. Remembers Tanya folding sheets smelling like bleach and devotion. Remembers Mrs. Watkins tearing the condemnation notice down and putting it in her Bible between the psalm about shepherds and the psalm about gates. It remembers Reese before the curriculum changed, when he used to carry Mrs. Watkins' groceries up 4 flights, and she'd give her $2 in a glass of lemonade, and $2 felt like a salary, and lemonade felt like a future.
This smile, don't forget. This smile, don't forget.
Every crack in the pavement holds a name, and the names hold each other the way neighbors hold each other's children. The wrecking ball comes next week, the real one, the official one. But the mile has already been wrecked and rebuilt so many times that demolition is just another season, and seasons pass, and the concrete remembers what the calendar doesn't. Leon finishes his coffee, stands up slow, looks at the mile from end to end. 1 mile exactly, 1 mile of condemned, 1 mile of proof that condemned is just the word the city uses for things it failed to protect.
This smile, don't forget. This smile, don't forget.
And neither do we. And neither do we.
September, and the block changes. Management overnight. 3 shots at the intersection where Terrence used to stand. He's not standing anymore. He's a vacancy. And vacancies get filled before the chalk outlot dries. Hostile takeover, no paperwork, no shareholders meeting. Just a sit-down with tinted windows and an acquisition strategy. Big Tommy's Western Corridor, 3 blocks, 14 corners, now belongs to someone whose name nobody knows yet. Hostile takeover, the board just got replaced. Hostile takeover, new management, same graveyard. Every corner's got a new face wearing the same expression. And the expression says, I know exactly what this costs. The transition was efficient, 3 days, 4 casualties. That's a better ratio than most corporate mergers. The new crew doesn't smile, doesn't introduce themselves. They just occupy the positions like they've always been there. Calvin, the dropout, he survived by being too small to notice. Watch the takeover from his grandmother's window. Counted the muzzle flashes like a kid counting lightning. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, but what follows isn't thunder. Hostile takeover, the board just got replaced. Hostile takeover, new management, same graveyard. They don't negotiate, they don't send memos. They send a message that arrives faster than sound. The block absorbed the violence like concrete absorbs rain. No marches, no vigils, no breaking news crawl. Just a mop memorial candle from the dollar store. Terrence's grandmother got the call at 6 a.m. She didn't scream, she'd been rehearsing this phone call for years. Just sat down slowly like a building settling into its foundation. It sat down slowly like a building settling into its foundation. It said, which hospital? Knowing the answer was none. Hostile takeover, the board just got replaced. And the stock price is measured in caskets. By next week it'll be invisible. And the economy will continue as if he was never a line item.
Face down. Hey, hey. January 1st and the block already owe somebody. Ice on the curb, steam rising from the gutter like a prayer. Nobody made a resolution here. Resolutions cost deposit. The only thing that's free is the chalk they used to mark where bodies settle. Marcus counts the morning, not in hours and transactions. 47 seconds from the stoop to the sedan. Back again before the street light changes. This is what they mean by fiscal discipline. The ledger don't lie. The ledger don't lie. Every name a number. Every number got a price. But the ledger don't lie. It just don't count the ones who never matter. Miss Eleanor's window got that plastic sheet for insulation. She watches the economy rotate beneath the fire escape. Her grandson was a dividend that never paid. She keeps her sneakers by the door like interest still accruing. February hits and the inventory shifts. New faces, same position, same percentage, same fluorescent bodega light. The corner doesn't interview, it just absorbs you. Clocks you in the moment that your options clock you by. The ledger don't lie. The ledger don't lie. Every name a number. Every number got a price. The ledger don't lie. But nobody reads the fine print. Young Darnell, 16, calls it work because the school called it absence. His mother calls it survival. The state calls it a statistic. He calls it Tuesday, which is the most honest name of all. $400 doesn't echo when it's spent before it's earned. The fiscal year started with a body on the pavement, outline drawn in chalk like a footnote in the annual report. 1 casualty filed under operating costs. The ambulance came 20 minutes late like interest on a loan. The ledger don't lie. The ledger don't lie. Every name a number. Every number got a price. The ledger don't lie. It just don't count the ones who never matter. March now, and the books are getting heavier. Every page another transaction, nobody signed for. The corner store accountant keeps his records in his jaw. Swallows the evidence before the auditors arrive. This block runs on a currency the tax man doesn't recognize. Paid in silence, paid in funerals, paid in shoes left by the door. And if you ask what the return on investment is, they'll show you the chart, still fresh, and say that's the receipt. Yeah. Hey, when the money starts to move, Crenshaw wakes up hungry. Every intersection is a margin call waiting to collect. Terrence got the morning shift, the one nobody volunteers for. Standing with the palm trees, those shadows shaped like prison bars. The sedan rolls slow, window drops an inch, just enough for commas. 40 seconds and the economy circulates. Terrence doesn't think about tomorrow. Tomorrow was a luxury, traded it for rent 3 months ago and never got it back. Margin call on Crenshaw, the debt is always due. Margin call on Crenshaw, and the interest follows you. You don't get to default, you don't get to file. You just keep paying till there's nothing left to lose. Big Tommy runs the Western Corridor, 3 blocks, 14 corners. He calls it territory, the IRS would call it a franchise. The markup is 200%, but the overhead is your life. And the employee benefits package is a handgun and a prayer. New kid named Calvin, fresh dropout, fresh sneakers. Ask Big Tommy what the retirement plan looks like. Tommy laughed, pointed at the chalk mark by the hydrant, said that's the pension. Young blood, full benefits, immediate payout. Margin call on Crenshaw, the debt is always due. Margin call on Crenshaw, and the interest follows you. Every dollar earned is a dollar someone bled for. Every dollar spent is a dollar closer to the chalk. May brings the heat and the competition. Southside crew expanding. Price war on the boulevard, and price wars have casualties. Terrence sees the new faces, younger, cheaper, more disposable. The market corrects itself, and correction looks like violence. He counts his money in the bathroom at his grandmother's house. $3,000 in 20s that smell like survival. She knocks on the door.
You all right in there, baby?
He says, yes, ma'am, and hides the stack behind the towels. Ooh, margin call on Crenshaw. The debt is always due. Margin call on Crenshaw, and the interest follows you. Ooh, you don't get to walk away. The block owns your balance. Crenshaw keeps the books, and the books never close. October, the auditors arrive, but they never speak. Badges and clipboards measuring what's left after liquidation. They count the streetlights that work, not the people that don't. They measure the distance between hydrants, not between funerals. The auditor's silence is the most expensive sound on this block. It means your losses aren't significant enough to investigate. It means your zip code filed itself under acceptable casualties. It means the spreadsheet has a column for you, but the column is blank. Silent. The auditor is silent, and the silence is the verdict. He walks the block and writes nothing down, because nothing here was ever written up. Detective Morrison, 22 years on the force, knows every corner, every name, every ghost. He stopped making arrests the same year he stopped believing. Now he just patrols the perimeter of his own indifference. You wanna know why nobody talks? He said once, off the record, because talking is an investment with zero return. You give them a name, they give you a case number, and the case number outlives the case every single time. Silent. The auditor is silent, and the silence is the verdict. The clipboard stays blank, the badge stays clean, and the block keeps bleeding into the margins. The forensics team left a chalk outline on all the street, but they misspelled the proportions, made the arms too short, as if even in death the body couldn't reach far enough to touch something worth saving. Yolanda from the corner store, she cataloged the whole thing, not officially, just in the head of human database. She knows which outlines belong to which names, and which names belong to which mothers. Silent. The auditor is silent, and the silence is a weapon. He walks these blocks and sees nothing, because seeing would require him to count us as human. The report will say area surveyed, no actionable findings, and the block will read that sentence like a death certificate, cause that's what it is, a formal declaration that what happened here wasn't significant enough to document. November approaches and the auditor's car pulls away. Clean sedan, clean conscience, clean departure, leaving behind 14 chalk marks and 0 reports. The most efficient genocide is the one that doesn't make the spreadsheet.
July in the South, the asphalt breeze and the revenue sweats. Houston Boulevard, where the oak trees bow like tied deacons. Miss Pauline's church fan, still move on Sunday. But the offering plate holds less every week. The Lord's competing with the block. Revenue streams run through this neighborhood like open veins. Red as the clay, red as the taillights leaving. Every dollar's got a genealogy. If you trace it back far enough, and every genealogy ends at somebody's grandmother's kitchen table. Revenue streams run red down the boulevard. Revenue streams run red. Revenue streams run red. Past the church, past the school. Every dollar dripping with the something that costs. Every stream runs red till it runs dry. Deacon really preaches prosperity gospel on the first and third Sundays. Between services, his nephew moves weight in the parking lot. Not because he's evil, because evil and survival share a zip code. And a zip code determines which one gets called which. The funeral home on Jefferson, busiest business on the block. Mr. Crawford runs it like a restaurant. Seasonal menu, repeat customers. He measures success and capacity. Last quarter he had to order extra folding chairs. Revenue streams run red down the boulevard. Revenue streams run red. Past the church, past the school. The money flows and the money goes, but the red stays on the hands of everyone it touches. August in the heat makes honesty impossible. Nobody can lie when they shirts soaked through. The truth sits on the porch in a lawn chair, drinking something cold, watching the economy rotate like a ceiling fan. Slow, predictable, useless little Charlie 11 runs numbers for the pharmacist, not the one with the degree, the one with the scale. Charlie thinks he's earning, but he's actually being spent. A line item in somebody else's revenue projection. Revenue streams run red down the boulevard. Revenue streams run red. Past the church, past the school. Every dollar dripping with the something that costs. Trace it back far enough and every stream starts with blood. Miss Pauline's church fans still move on Sunday, but the offering play holds less every week. And the revenue streams keep running. Red is the clay, red is the exit wounds, red is the truth. November.
And the dividends are in, paid in chalk, paid in silence. The shareholders meeting is a funeral with folding chairs. Mr. Crawford's funeral home, capacity exceeded. He's measuring grief by the square footage now. Chop, 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 chop. And dividends, that's the currency of the forgotten. You die, you become a line on the pavement. You die, you become a number in somebody's quarterly report, and the report gets filed in a drawer that nobody opens. And dividend, the payout comes in white powder. Chop, and dividend. The interest comes in pine boxes. Every outline is a receipt. Every funeral is a shareholder meeting. Big Tommy's gone, liquidated in the hostile takeover. His western corridor divided among strangers. His mother got a flag from nobody in the casket on layaway. The payment plan extends past the point of remembering. The G-Funk still rides through these avenues after dark. Slow bass, slow grief, slow acceptance of the math. The low rider passes the chalk marks without slowing down, because slowing down means acknowledging the arithmetic. Chalk and dividend. The payout comes in white powder. Chalk and dividend. The interest comes in pine boxes. The block pays its dividends in bodies, and the shareholders never see a return. Calvin, remember him? The dropout? He's 17 now. 1 year older, which here means 1 year more expensive. He inherited Terrence's position without applying. The corner doesn't post job listings, it just fills the vacancy with the nearest body. Miss Eleanor's window, the one with the plastic sheet. She stopped watching the economy rotate. Now she just listens to it through the floor. The transactions sound the same from every angle. Heavy, final, rhythmic, chalk and dividend. comes in white powder, chop chop
and give it in.
The interest comes in pine boxes. Every outline is a receipt for a life the city refused to appraise, and the dividend keeps paying out in chalk. White is surrender. The fiscal year is almost over. The balance sheet is written in chalk on asphalt, and the rain is coming to wash the books clean, so they can start to count again.
Midnight and the interest rate climbs. Every hour past sundown costs more. The stairwell smells like bleach and negotiation. Someone's cleaning up a transaction that went sideways. Mop in one hand, phone in the other, both dripping. The Queensbridge of anywhere, every city got one. A building where the elevator knows your net worth. Presses the button for the floor you can afford, and if you owe, it takes you to the basement. Interest compounds at midnight. Every hour you owe more. Interest compounds at midnight, and the principal is your soul. The clock don't stop, the rate don't drop, and the only way to settle is a body on the floor. Rico from the 5th floor, he was good at math. Not the school kind that calculates survival. He knew the exact weight where profit becomes prison. Knew the phone number between getting by and getting caught. But midnight has its own method at compounding. Relentless. The knock comes at 2 a.m. It's not the police, it's the collection department. 3 deep, no paperwork. Interest compounds when you sleep, and Rico slept too long. Interest compounds at midnight. Every hour you owe more. Interest compounds at midnight, and the principal is your soul. They don't send letters, they don't send warnings. They send someone who knows where your mother lies. June rolls in with humidity and obligation. The block sweats, and sweat as the cologne's a watchtower. Every parked car a potential audit from the wrong department. The girl at the corner store, Yolanda, she sees everything. Rings up the purchase, rings up the patterns, buys 2 phones every month, she tells no one. That means he's either paranoid or profitable. Same thing here. Interest compounds at midnight. Every hour you owe more. Interest compounds at midnight, and the principal is your soul. The clock don't stop, the rate don't drop, and the only thing cheaper than life here is the cost of ending one. Rico's light went off last Tuesday. Nobody filed a missing persons because nobody was missing a person. They were missing a revenue stream, and the building adjusted its books accordingly.
Yeah. December and the spreadsheet is full, every row accounted for. But the columns that matter most are the ones they deleted. The column for first words, the column for favorite songs, the column for the way somebody laughed before the math caught up. With the spreadsheet buried underneath its numbers. Terrence used to draw buildings he'd never live in. Big Tommy coached Little League before the league ran out of funding. Rico sent money home every Friday to a woman he never married, because love wasn't on the budget, only survival was.
What the spreadsheet buried is the light before the line item.
What the spreadsheet buried
is the name before the number.
Yeah. Yeah, you can audit everything and still miss what mattered. You can count every dollar and still lose the count. Darnell, remember him? 16, called it work. He's in juvenile now, which the system calls correction, but correction implies there was an error, and the only error was the zip code he was born into. Miss Eleanor finally took down the plastic from her window, not because she got heat, because she stopped feeling the cold. There's a temperature below freezing where the body just accepts, and acceptance is the last transaction nobody writes down.
What the spreadsheet buried is the light before the line item.
What the spreadsheet buried
is the name before the number.
Yo, you can balance every book in the city and still owe a debt you'll never know how to repay. Yolanda closed the corner store on December 23rd, not for the holiday. The lease tripled overnight. She packed the register, the stool, and 40 years of witnessing into a sedan that smelled like receipt paper and resignation. Old Raymond, the bodega philosopher, he's still there, stirring sugar into coffee, watching the new rotation.
The block don't promote,
he says again, to nobody in particular. It just erases your position and hires the next body at minimum wage.
What the spreadsheet buried is the light before the line item.
What the spreadsheet buried
is the name before the number.
Somewhere between the revenue and the loss column, there were children who used to draw buildings they never live in.
And the spreadsheet doesn't have a column for that.
Doesn't have a formula for grief or self or potential. Just rows and rows of transactions and a delete key that the city presses every January 1st.
December 31st, the books are closing. Rain washes the chalk from the asphalt like a hand erasing a blackboard. Tomorrow the fiscal year resets and the block will start counting its dead from zero again. I'm standing where Terrence stood, not by choice, by gravity. This corner pulls you in like debt pulls you under, slow, certain, and with the patience of something that knows it'll win, because the house always wins when the house is the only game. The ledger don't lie, but tonight I'm asking, what if it did? What if it counted the drawings Terrence Fetz never finished? What if it counted sermons Deacon Willie meant? What if the ledger had a column for Miss Eleanor's grants and sneakers still sitting by the door, still accruing interest of a different kind? What if it counted Calvin's childhood, the one he traded for a position that was always gonna be temporary? The rain keeps falling and the chalk keeps dissolving, every outline returning to nothing, every number returning to name, every transaction returning to a human being who used to have a favorite color. This block generated 14 casualties fiscal year. Closing statement, 0 convictions, 0 investigations, 0 adjustments. Closing statement, the operating cost was measured in lives and the lives were measured in nothing, because nothing was the unit of measurement. The ledger don't lie, but tonight, standing in the rain where the chalk used to be, I'm thinking the ledger never told Duthie, never told the truth either. It just recorded what the city decided was worth recording. We weren't worth recording. Our names weren't worth a column. Our debts weren't worth an audit. Our children weren't worth a footnote. Our children weren't worth a footnote in the fiscal report, but we were here. Terrence was here, Tommy was here, Rico was here. It was in the chalk, brief, bright, and already fading. It was in the rain, washing everything clean for the next fiscal year. It was in Miss Eleanor's window, finally open after all this time, letting in the cold, letting in the truth, letting in the sound of a block that we'll start counting again tomorrow. From zero, always from zero. The ledger don't lie. It just never learned how to count what matters. the radiator hums a frequency only tenants understand. 3 locks on the door, but the draft still gets in. Keisha sits at the kitchen table, counting what's left. Subtracting rent, subtracting electric, subtracting the part of self she sold to cover February. Every scar is an asset on this block. Proof you survived the audit. The one on Jerome's neck, that's collateral from 94. The one beneath Maria's eye, that's a down payment she never agreed to. We carry our balance sheets on our skin. An inventory of scars, everyone a transaction. An inventory of scars, everyone a cost. Count them in the mirror, count them in the morning. Count the ones you carry for the ones you lost. The building superintendent keeps a list of what's broken, but not the people, just the pipes, just the plaster. Apartment 4B hasn't had hot water since November, but the rent still clears on the first like clockwork. Old Raymond at the bodega says he's been here 40 years. Watch 3 generations cycle through the same economy. The block don't promote, he says, stirring sugar into coffee. It just reassigns your position when somebody else gets terminated. An inventory of scars, everyone a transaction. An inventory of scars, everyone a cost. Count them in the mirror, count them in the morning. Count the ones you carry for the ones you lost. The street light flickers like a cursor on a spreadsheet, blinking at the column where the names used to be. Somebody spray painted, we were here on the overpass, but the city painted over before the paint could dry. Keisha finished counting, the math never works. There's always a deficit between what you earn and what you owe. She closes the notebook, turns off the kitchen skin. Every mark of memory, what the block took in. The draft still gets in through 3 locks on the door. And the building keeps standing because nobody told the door. And the building keeps standing because nobody told it not to. Inventory and balance, everything accounted for except the things that balance. Those were never on the books.